Is Clemson in trouble? Well, let's talk about it. So Clemson wins 41-10 against Georgia Tech a couple days ago. Um, really almost a night and day difference from last year when Clemson had to come down to the last second to hang on to a win and get its last second stop against Georgia Tech in that 14-8 win. This year it's 41-10. A lot of you gotta love the overreacting. You gotta love the overreacting by fans all over the country. There's not as many media personalities who are professional who are overreacting too much, but a lot of overreacting. You even see it in the AP poll. Teams like Florida moving up to number 12 from like number 35 or something for beating a decent Utah team by a few points. So let's get into the Georgia Tech game a little bit here. There's a bunch of pros, bunch of cons. I think everybody saw the cons. The offensive line was tragic. We could not run the ball that much against the Georgia Tech defense that we should have been able to. Now, Georgia Tech is improved, but they're not improved enough to be stopping Clemson's running game, which we thought was going to be the strength of this game. I think most people thought that Shipley, Maffa, Pace, all these guys were going to come in here and just run all over Georgia Tech. And honestly, other than a couple of Shipley runs, it was actually, DJ that was having some good runs too. So a lot of improvement needs to be made there. And the receiving core, man, just like last year, a lot of drop passes. Now, that's something that I think will improve as the year goes on, as confidence grows, stuff like that, especially the young guys stepping up here. But there's a lot of throws that were right on the money that were dropped. Defense played pretty flawless other than one drive. I still think Clemson has the best defense in the country. We had one bad drive, which led to a Georgia Tech touchdown early in the third quarter when it was 14-10 and everybody was about to have a stroke. But other than that, KJ Henry, shout out to you, man. Just absolutely dominant. Brzee played good. Really, the whole defensive line dominated. The corners, the secondary, safeties, just all around great performance. So still should be very solid there. And let's get into what everybody wants to talk about. The number one thing that was on social media that pretty much all the professionals were talking about. There's a bunch of videos from everybody about it. And that is the quarterback situation with good old DJ and Cade Kublik, who is the freshman 5-star number one quarterback in the class of 2022, who enrolled early and came in, and we got to see a tiny bit of in this game. So first off, I'll say I started the year wanting DJ to be the starter. I tweeted out DJ quarterback number one. I had confidence. I was hopeful. We'll just say that. It's not that I had seen anything specifically or heard anything. I was just hoping from the weight loss and the more he could move and stuff like that, and some family issues hopefully clearing up a little bit, that would help a lot. And it was a very slow start. Early in the third quarter, there had been some good drives by DJ, but I was really starting to say, okay, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And really struggling to even justify DJ being the starter. But all that to say, he did have some great drives later in the third quarter and early fourth quarter. And really looking back at it, there's a lot that needs to be improved by DJ. Obviously, he needs to make sure he can get his pocket presence better. The guy is still struggling heavily to make decisions, taking a long time to get the ball out. And that definitely led to some sacks, turnovers, all that kind of stuff. But the good side, he did do better than a lot of times last year. And there was a lot. I don't know if anybody besides Clemson fans might have noticed this. I think a few personalities did, but his passes were so much more accurate. There was very few off-target passes. He's improved in not throwing it into double coverage, not throwing it to spots that could be intercepted. If it looks like there's nobody open, he's throwing it away. He's not able to create as much as I'd like, but if you go back and look, there was a lot of dropped perfect passes. He would have had easily 100 more yards if his receivers had caught the balls that were placed right in their hands, great spiral. Everything looked great on a lot of throws. To sit here and say that DJ has not improved takes ignorance, and I don't blame a lot of other fan bases, especially some of the guys on YouTube on here, for thinking that DJ hadn't gotten any better, because you just watch a few clips here and see what you see on Twitter, watch a couple bad passes, and think that, okay, yeah, same old, same old. But for those of us who actually watched the whole game, there's a big improvement by DJ. Now, with that being said, we saw one drive of Cade come in, and I think it was against Georgia Tech's second string, third string, whatever you want to say. And he was using the Central High School walk-ons to help out there. But regardless, just watching his form, watching everything there, man, he gets it out of there so much quicker. The decision making, the pocket presence, the ability to roll out of the pocket and find people. Just on that drive, that one drive he had when we went 4 for 6 and a touchdown, was great. The amount of time he gets the ball from his hand to the receiver is amazing. Accuracy, amazing. It was just really fun to see. Obviously, we're going to be able to see a lot more this week against Furman. You got to imagine that he's going to play at least half the game against Furman and against Louisiana Tech next week as well. The schedule sets up perfectly. It gets pretty tough after next week. But these 3 games here early on were huge to kind of use to figure out what we're doing on offense. Next 2 games especially. But Cade is it. He looks like he's it. Obviously, we're not going to be able to tell until he comes up against some good defenses and some really crucial times in games. But just the fact that Clemson has that in their back pocket behind DJ, I would not. There's a lot of Clemson fans out there asking for them to go ahead and replace DJ. I would not. And Dabo knows that's something you can't come back from, so he's not going to do that. DJ will be the starter. Now, if it comes down to the Wake Forest game against a bad Wake Forest defense and he's struggling heavily, Wake Forest is keeping it close, and especially against NC State, if if we're struggling, if we're down, you got to make the move. And that's what a lot of people don't seem to understand. The media and all these people saying Clemson's cooked and all that kind of stuff. Look, DJ may come out and he may look great against all those teams, and hey, I'll be pulling for him to be starter. We probably will have a similar situation to 2018. It'll be close. I'm pulling for both the guys. DJ, I hope he can get it going here. But Clemson is going to be absolutely fine. Most of the stuff is small fixes. I don't see how anybody could sit here and say that Clemson's going to have the same type of season they did last year. I think we'll see that by halfway through the season when Clemson's easily 6-0. Very, very confident Clemson's going to be in the playoff this year. There's not a team that could blow Clemson out this year, but I'm not going to sit here and say that Clemson's going to win the national championship, because there's obviously some great teams out there who could absolutely beat Clemson. There's just none that are capable of blowing Clemson out. So it'll be interesting to see here. Obviously, everybody's going to be watching this quarterback battle, but the overreactions and all these people saying Clemson's terrible, Clemson's overrated, after game 1, when your team played Bethune-Cookman or A&M Poor the Blind or whatever, it's a joke. So it is what it is. We'll see what they look like against the next 2 teams here in Furman and Louisiana Tech as we get ready for ACC play. What should be an undefeated Wake Forest team with one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC coming back. So we'll see what happens. But right now, is Clemson in trouble? No. No.